All right, how's it going, my magnificent sons of bitches? And I've decided I wanted to come back and address this because I hear a lot of people talking about the little French thing that's going on. Let's go ahead and blame the Muslims like we blamed the Pride bullshit last week. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't know what's going on. Supposedly, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. It's the same thing as the George Floyd shit is here. And, they've run these psychological operations so much that you would think that people would start to wake up and start to understand when you're being lied to. Uh, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth about really what's going on over there in France. And now a lot of people are like, well, they're going to use this to stop the French election. And, hey, that's a possibility because we already understand that, whenever they run these psychological operations, they have multifaceted plans whenever they're going about doing this. However, with that being said, it's pretty easy to understand. Once you understand, because last week you remember the Wagner Group was going to go ahead and overthrow Vladimir Putin, and Ukraine was going to stop the war in Russia last week because this so-called Wagner Group was going to go. Which Stephen Rose is in the house. We got Raymond McLeod. But that's what they were talking about last week. How this, supposedly all of these people were going to go over there and do a coup, which was kind of a shock to me personally, being how Putin probably has like an 89% approval rating amongst his people. I think most people that were in the military, that's ever been in the military, said, you know what, this doesn't smell right. This smells like a red herring. And of course, the media bought on it. And of course, they look like utter fools for about one day. In the media cycle, they were all overreacting and was, putting all these Putin memes up. However, I knew that was horse shit too. And I was on Twitter. If this video will get uploaded on Twitter because there's some wonky ass shit going on with Twitter too. But with that being said, I knew that this was ultimately horseshit. I knew that wasn't the case in Russia, just like I know that there's something that smells with these French riots. Well, whenever you take in consideration that, in the recent weeks, you had Kenya, and you can go back and look at the video that I have on my Twitter with Wadihi Giardini, where he discusses about this. But ultimately, what you had last week was Kenya come out in support of the BRICS nation, moving to the BRICS nation, having all these African countries go over and join the BRICS nations. Then you had Iran talking about joining the BRICS nations. Ultimately, what you got going on now is that France was considering going and setting in on one of these BRICS nations meetings. So we can ultimately see the reason for these riots. It smells like a psychological operation. And I do have, because the BRICS nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Those makes up the BRICS nations. And ultimately, they're competing with the United States dollar. And as we already know, what happens when you compete with the United States dollar, you've seen what happened to Saddam, you've seen what happened to Gaddafi, it happens all the time. And a lot of these countries are backed by the United States dollars. This would have great devastation. So I'm pretty sure that these French riots have something to do with that. They'll probably try to use it to somehow replace Macron, since Macron is trying to get in on the BRICS nations. And ultimately, every YouTuber in the world is going to sit there and jump on board like a bitch in heat, kind of like they do with the Donald Trump shit. They're all over that shit. You know what I'm saying? But they don't want to have any intellectual honesty here anymore. It's like this platform just relies on, cheap clicks and views and whatnot. So, yeah, I figured I would go ahead, give my take on the French thing, give my take on the French, because like I said, I did the MAGA thing, and I'm still going to sit there and say that the MAGA is the new Democrat Party. Donald Trump has accumulated, regardless of what anybody thinks, he's probably got 4 times the Democrat voters and probably 2.5 times more than the Republican voter base. So, ultimately, it only makes practical sense that ultimately the Democrat Party would soon try to accumulate those MAGA voters back in. So ultimately, the MAGA base is probably your new Democrat base. And we could sit there and see right now that there's probably going to be a purge of that Democrat base. But no, this is what's going on globally. That's a global thing. The France, Macron joining the BRICS nations. That's a global thing, so you might want to go ahead and keep a watch out. If too many of these nations start to go ahead and you know align themselves with the BRICS nations, then ultimately you're looking at a collapse of the world economy. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I didn't want to do a really long video. I got to go to work in the morning. So, you people tell me what you think. You like, sub, do the shit YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the internet tell me to do to get over. And for now, I'm out.